Hey everybody, welcome back to the K2N Online Paddle School. We're back here on YouTube, and this quick tip for the week is a little different than normal. Normally we talk about paddle technique directly with how to move your craft more efficiently, how to be more comfortable on your watercraft out on the water. This week we're going to talk about the other aspect of owning a boat, which includes loading and unloading it off of typical V-bar racks or strapping it down on traditional roof racks. We receive this question very often, and as you progress into owning racing paddlecraft, they typically get much longer. Dealing with these off of the water is just as tricky as trying to put the pieces together in functioning the craft itself. So this week we're going to go through a bunch of different techniques to load your boat on your vehicle and how to properly strap it down. The most popular way to transport these vehicles currently is using V-bar racks. One of the reasons V-bars are so important is because typical roof racks are very close to each other. The V-bars then attach to these two roof racks and extend your 2 points of contact on the boat much further out. Being inside of a V-cradle is very ergonomic for transporting these crafts over long distances. If you do not have V-bars, we will briefly go over strapping your boat down onto padded roof racks and then using bow and stern line. We will not be discussing specific brands when it comes to V-bars, since this video is not sponsored, hint, hint. But if you do have questions about different type of V-bars and want our opinion, please reach out anytime. So without further ado, let's get outside and start picking up the boat, loading it and unloading it. The first thing that we want to establish with these boats is defining the center point of the vessel. Some boats have center handles that you can utilize. This boat here does not, the Vega from Kaiwa. But once you find that center point, it's very easy to lift up and down, and we're going to be using this to expand on as we go through the procedure. Using this center point, we are going to shelf the boat. So you're going to pick it up from that center point and lift it up and bring your opposite arm under the vessel, and this is going to act as a cradle to put the vessel on your shoulder. The lighter your vessel is, the easier it is to do this. We will have procedures for vessels that are too heavy to lift, like so. The first method that we're going to show here is by coming in at an angle and sliding the boat onto the front V and then lifting it over the rear rack. Depending on the height of your vehicle, this might be the easiest way to secure the nose of the boat and then working to lift the tail over your rear V-bar. You must be very careful that your boat doesn't slam into that rear V-bar. So this is a great option if your vessel is, light enough to lift and your car is not too high, so you can clear that back V-bar. Next, we're going to show unloading the boat using the same method. So you can lift up on the rudder if you need to get the extra few inches to clear that back V-bar. Slowly walk yourself back to that center point, and you want to be able to lift the nose up, and this shows that you have control of the boat and you are in the center point. Then simply take it off the V-bar. The next method is exactly the same, but using a step ladder or a small step stool to clear the rear V-bar. So depending if you're using a full-size truck, you can push the nose into that front V, walk yourself to the back, and then step onto the step stool to easily clear that back V-bar. This also negates the need to lift up on the rudder itself, which is sort of taboo to do. So having that step stool allows you to lift the hull efficiently and cleanly. Same idea, bring it back to the center point, lift the nose, and then you're in control of the vessel, and then just set it down. The next method that we're going to go through is loading from the rear, which is the most common way to utilize the V-bars. So the first one we're showing here, we don't have socks on that back V-bar, which means that it will squeak a little bit as you're pushing it in, but all you're going to do is just walk your center point up and just slowly walk the boat forward. Once it touches the front V-bar, it is secure, and then you can slowly keep pushing it forward till the balance point is between those 2 V-bars. The procedure for unloading is the same thing. You're just going to keep scooting it back until you get that tipping point. Once the tipping point is reached, put the boat on your shoulder, keep walking down, same as before. Once you're in the center, lift up on the nose to show you have control of the boat, and from there, you can put it all the way down. The next method is the exact same, but we put some socks onto that back V-bar, so it minimizes the squeaking. This is a common practice to negate the friction from that back V-bar, and it makes it a little easier to slide on and off. Doesn't affect its transport as long as you strap it down properly. So from here, scooting it back into the tipping point goes onto the shoulder. In control of the boat when you can lift up on the nose, clear that back V-bar, and then you can set it all the way down on the ground. The lighter the boat, the easier this process is. This next method is if you are not strong enough to lift your boat onto your shoulder as easily as demonstrated here. So you can use a set of racks to put the boat on at the tail to keep the rudder off the ground, and you can lift the nose onto the V-bar on the back, and then from there lift the boat and slide it on. This is if you're having major issues with controlling the boat because of its overall weight. The procedure for unloading is the exact same, where you're going to begin sliding the boat backwards, and you want the tail to find that same V cradle to set it down on. This gives you a halfway point to reposition your body and only have to deal with half of the boat's weight at a given time. So here I'm setting the boat all the way down, and then this gives me time. It is secure between those 2 points to grab the nose and place it on the ground. The heavier the vessel, the more of necessity is needed for this, or if you're just not strong enough or tall enough to really deal with loading and unloading, this is another middle ground to help facilitate that. As a quick disclaimer, this vehicle does not use these roof racks or this type of a setup. We actually use a SUP taxi, which is a very similar system. So the depiction of the pad here is not as secure as it could be, but for demonstration purposes only, this shows us how we can use the strap to the bar. So you want to throw the strap over the top with the locking mechanism facing you, and you want to go under the bar on the opposite side and bring the strap over the top back to you. Then you want to go under the bar that is closer to you, then feed the excess line through the locking mechanism. Make sure the line is straight on the hull there, and then go ahead and tighten. With this method of using bow and stern lines, I like to keep both of these straps on the vehicle very loose in comparison to what they will be when we're hauling them. That way the bow and stern line can move the boat around without damaging it. So you'll notice here this is not very secure, but this shows us the methodology in getting the straps into place. With the bow line here, we have an anchor point built in. It's bolted on under the hood on the CRV, and there's going to be some slack in this line because as the hood goes down, it is going to take that slack out and give us tension, and you're going to see the boat here is going to move because both of those straps are very loose here. But you can see now the boat is in a much more secure place, and I'll go back and tighten those straps. Going into the stern line here, we have a little anchor point on the tail there where a trailer hitch can go, and then from here we're going to tie our knot. I simply do a single knot just for simplicity's sake so it doesn't take so long for the video. So right here, making sure that we have this tightened, making sure that there's not too much slack in that stern line, and getting it all set up. This helps the boat from tracking side to side with wind gusts when your racks are very close to each other. When you're using V-bars, you don't really need bow and stern lines because the V's are located so far apart from each other. V-bars will come with bungee cords that will hook on the V's on the front, so you can see that contour right next to my right ear, and that's where the bungees would attach. What I'm going to show is strapping them down a little bit more securely, since this is a little bit more in-depth of a process. So just like we were doing with the roof racks, but instead of making that figure 8 on the roof racks themselves, we're just going to strap it directly to the bar. This is one of the most secure ways to keep your vessel on the V-bars, is by cinching it down into the V-bars themselves, taking the excess line and just looping around the bar itself and tying off a knot so it doesn't flap too much in the wind. The most secure way is to have your bungees on the V-bars, and then using these straps specifically, one on the front, one on the back, or you can have one near the center point to cinch it down. But if you're going on the highway, most people will recommend to cinch your boat down to the V-bar itself. Seldom does the V-bar come apart from the boat in this scenario, right? You would just have to worry about how the V-bar is anchored to the actual roof rack system itself. Most of the time that is the weakest point, so you always want to check and make sure all your screws and bolts are nice and tight in that scenario. Cinching it to the V-bar is pretty simplistic for the most part. That's about it for the loading and unloading and some simplistic tie-off options. If there's anything we missed and you want to see something in the future, please let us know. We can make another video detailing and outlining those other steps. Welcome back, everybody. So that about summarizes everything when it comes to loading and unloading the boat. If you have specific questions about your specific setup and want some tips or other ideas on how to load and unload to get some feedback, please reach out to us anytime. And don't forget, the K2NOnlinePaddleSchool.com has a monthly subscription that allows you to access 200 videos about your forward stroke, paddling technique and leverages, getting comfortable in your boat, selecting different boats, paddles, and off the water training exercises you can do to enhance your posture and movement. If you have any questions about that, our online training program, or video reviews, we can get that information to you as soon as possible. Thank you guys so much for supporting the YouTube channel, and we will see you next week for our next quick tip.